2023, we dropped from, I think, 15 employees down to 1. And we shut down the 7 companies, we've shut down 6 of them. Question I've asked myself, Jason, is like, who am I when there's nothing on the calendar?
So that point of view right there is saying that you can't serve them without a plan. So let's take that point of view and just throw it out the window. The reason you get a blank answer when you say, who am I without all that? The reason why the answer comes up blank is because who you are is beyond words. There's no words to describe who you really are. So let's focus you in a direction where you are making the impact you want. You are impacting the world. And even though you don't know how, it's already happening. Today, got an amazing human being with me. He's got a little less hair than I do, but I'm on my route to catching Nick. Nick Ailerod, how are you doing today?
I'm well, Jason. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Where are you dialing in from? I'm in Austin, Texas, and we're bracing for some cold weather here.
I feel bad for you. We're in Boston. We just had 18 inches of snow and about 28 degrees.
28? Yeah. So tell me about yourself. Tell everybody about you. Who are you? What do you do?
Cool. Who am I? What do I do? That's a question that keeps changing. 20-year real estate investor veteran. Started in wholesaling and rehabbing and multifamily, buy and holds, fix and flipping. We had a property management company, a brokerage, short sell debt negotiation. Like, we did the thing. We did all of it, and syndicator and all that. So that was me for the last 20 years. And through a series of lots of things we can chat about today, trying to find the new identity.
Okay, great. And you said that you've worked with JDC coaching before, right?
Indeed.
And tell me a story. You were talking about burnout. Like, I think that's a really good example. Like, repeat that story. I cut you off when you were telling me a second ago.
Yeah, totally. So I've always been very heavy on target setting and setting the targets for the year. And it's funny because it was just last year I was having trouble setting my targets for the company. And it wasn't because I didn't have big visions and big goals and this and that. I just literally, like, things didn't excite me at all. And hired JDC coaching. And after him hearing a whole bunch of, one of your coaches who was amazing, Peter, and he heard all the stuff that I was doing and had been doing for 20 years. And it came to the point where, okay, let's schedule the next call. And I remember thinking, like, saying to him, I can't do that right now. I can't handle that. I took out my phone and we're going through trying to find a time that worked. I just can't do that. I'll email you. Like, and that was the end of it. And he said, sounds like you have some trauma around your calendar. And I'm like, yeah, I have lots of trauma around the calendar. I didn't even think of that. Let's talk about that next time. So that was that one. Yeah. A lot of stuff there we found out about this year.
So how's your trauma around the calendar right now in your phone?
Well, I mean, similar to you, right? I've been following you for years and years. I've also had an awakening, which at first was really, really cool. And then it turned into, it's not cool anymore. And the different branches and companies, like, we had 7 different companies all operating at one point and at very high levels. And, we had a team of over 25 people. And, with everything that I had started to get into real estate for, that whole freedom aspect, financial freedom aspect, it was anything but that. I had locked myself into a prison of Zoom meetings and accountability calls. And that's when I hired JDC, thinking I just needed clarity around targets, when it became this massive shift of, maybe this isn't in alignment with me anymore. And then this past year has been me trying to come to terms with saying thank you and almost having a funeral for this identity that I created over the past 20 years. It has been powerful. So
did coaching play a role in getting out of that spot?
Absolutely.
Because I can definitely agree with you with the awakening portion. It changes things as you start to see things differently. So how long ago was that where you were having locked yourself into Zoom prison? When was that?
Well, I had locked myself into Zoom prisons probably 5, 6, 7 years ago, but realizing that it came to realization in January, when, like, I didn't want to set targets. I didn't want to put another scheduled appointment into my phone. Like, it all came to me, and it was Peter who was like, well, what's that about? I'm like, I don't know, but I can't deal with it right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So where are you now? That's where you were. Where are you now?
Having learned. So, 21 years now, right, as high level real estate investor. And similar to you, I did nothing with life or mindset. It was all real estate coaching, real estate courses, real estate, all that stuff. And having realized that, when the awakening happens and you realize you're not in alignment, once that hits your heart and goes into your brain, it's over. And I like to tell people, I wish I could say it was sexy, but these past 12 months have been me literally saying, this is not in alignment with me. Shut it down. This is not where my heart's calling me to be. Shut it down. And it's been a 2023. I mean, we dropped from, at one point, like we said, we're at 25 employees. We dropped from, I think, 15 employees down to 1. And we shut down the 7 companies. We've shut down 6 of them. So, and it's literally been like, what the question I've asked myself, Jason, is like, who am I when there's nothing on the calendar? Like, who am I when I'm not being busy and I'm not providing value? These are the questions that I've been trying to ask myself. Like, what does it even look like going forward? And so today, yeah, like I like to add value to people who are changing the world, like, and yourself and your company included, right? Like, how can I add value to myself through helping other people?
You seem like light. There's a lightness to you. and a joy. Now, we haven't really talked one-on-one before, so I don't know where your personality was 7 years ago, but there is a lightness, and it seems like you've broken out, crawled out, pried your way out of that rut that so many entrepreneurs get stuck in.
Yeah. I mean, going through, I thought I could just also operate though, right from creation. And this is where you might tell me I was supposed to be right, but I felt like I almost had to go through some significant darkness this past year, right? Like I had to do that in order to release what I needed to release to get to this place. And I still have more to come, right? I'm in the transition, which sucks. I just want to be in the place of creation and excitement over here.
As do I, right? Last year was a year of processing a lot of darkness or heaviness. And it just, I think we're getting through this. I don't know if you've listened to Matt Kahn.
Matt Kahn. No.
Matt Kahn is one of the speakers that I follow. He's a spiritual speaker. He's really high frequency, so most people don't get him. But he's like, he's the one that I get the most growth from following consistently over like the past 6-7 years. And he's like, this year is when we're almost done cleaning up the past. This year will be the year, because it seems like we've been shoveling shit from the past for a long time. And we're ahead of the curve right now if you look at the rest of everybody, right? So what's life like right now?
Like the mind still spirals in the morning, and trying to train it with things, like meditation, like yoga, like heavy fitness and plant medicine and like all of that. And at the time where, I'm trying to ask the question, who do I want to serve today? And what do I want to do today? And that said, I allocate, there's still like this old life, I call it, right? So the old life that keeps trying to suck me back in, I now have very clear boundaries. Like, old life, you have these 2 hours today to be dealt with. And then after that, I have to operate in this new place of who I am. So it's been teaching me boundaries. Lots of different boundaries had to be set. And I grew up as a people pleaser, right? Talk about all the stuff from childhood about, abandonment, all that. So people pleasing and boundaries are a big new thing for me.
Yes. For all of us have the inferior ego complex, yes, that is. There's the inferior ego complex and there's the narcissistic ego complex. You get one or the other, right? So the pleasing is a part of it, right? And it's this evolution. And what's actually happening right now is everyone else is like basically becoming empathic right now, and all the empaths are going the opposite direction. Because everyone else is starting to feel more tuned into the collective. So they're starting to basically have new systems turned on. We just don't know how to use them, right? We're operating at such a high frequency right now that like literally I can change beliefs like that in clients, which 10 years ago would take 40 minutes or weeks, because we're operating at such a high frequency. But everyone else is turning on to empath, basically the collective connection to the collective consciousness. And everybody who's an empath is really going through the experience now of being a unique individual. That's their thing. And and what actually happens, and a big part of that growth process is when you stop focusing externally and seeking external validation, then you know, the reason we seek external validation is because we're not giving it to ourselves internally.
Oh, amen. Yeah.
So the next evolution is diving into that self-acceptance, but we were born with an ego and a heart, the duality. So there's always those two paths are going. Right now they're integrating individually as well as collectively. That's what's happening collectively. And all of our major institutions, government, education, healthcare, finance, military, like they don't serve the collective. So they're changing, right?
I hope they're changing. Yeah.
Well, they are changing. They are changing. Like look at like, you know, it was the beginning of January, and in early December there was the conflict in the Gaza, right? There was that. Who knows what actually happened there? Something happened. We know that there was some violent shit that shouldn't have happened, right? I'm not condoning any of it. But didn't you notice, like, for a week there, it felt like we were going to global war?
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%.
And did you notice how fast that disappeared? It was like, oh shit, we're going to war. And then all of a sudden it dropped, and now it's just something happening over there.
That's a good point. Usually, though, there's something else that takes the distraction, but they used to use fear. Media would use fear to do that with, right?
But the collective consciousness isn't going to support global war. So that's why it got de-escalated so fast.
Love that.
Because we're operating in a higher energy. And I wish people could see through my eyes, because when I started coaching for Tony Robbins over 11 years ago, you know, Tony taught me to use neuro-linguistic programming. He taught me to change people's state. Yeah, right? But that doesn't change your default belief structure. It creates a temporary physiological change, which creates a temporary mindset to function, because he didn't have the tools available to change the belief like that, you know? Because neuro-linguistic programming, all of those tools were created in the 80s when we couldn't access that frequency of consciousness. And in 2014, I figured out how to change a belief in like minutes. And it was simply by taking ownership of it. Like literally, that was it. And when I first started to see that, I started trying it on client after client. I tried to tell the entire coaching team and nobody could hear me. It was the strangest thing. It's like I'm shouting and it's just crickets. And I realized later that the reason nobody could hear it is because it was at a frequency of consciousness that no one was at. So I started coaching people that way, because I could create belief changes with this technology, which is the foundation of frame shifting. That's what it is. And I would get a client like in 2015, and some of those clients, it would take 4 months or 6 months of coaching to be able to run that tool. It was
to get into the frame. Yeah.
Just to get them to the frequency where they could run that tool would take me 4 to 6 months of coaching. Now I can get anybody there in 10 minutes who wants to be there. Now, yes, my skill is more refined, but the real differentiator is that everyone's operating at an average higher frequency.
Yeah.
Because if you look deep down, you know, past the fear that's being triggered, you know, if you sit with it long enough, you're going to find peace. And you know the world's not in self-destruction. It just looks that way.
Yeah.
Because it's all for the evolution. Every soul is on its unique journey, having an experience in life that's a match to the frequency of that soul. Even people who are having atrocities happen to them is still part of their soul journey.
5 years ago, I wouldn't believe any of this, but amen. Amen, amen.
Yeah. So I have chosen to be entertained this year because this election is going to be entertaining. Let's just put it that way, right?
That's absolutely. I was a political science major in college, which brought me far, you know, for real estate.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I've always taken politics as an observer, which I appreciated, right? Because I never really got into, I observed the back and forth. I observed the party lines. I observed the anger and the negative ad campaigning. I've always kept that piece of it. Like, you know, just watch the show happen. Watch the show unfold. I like that. Yeah.
And that's typically what I'm doing right now is I'm changing the point of view to a higher point of view. That's basically the coaching I do is I basically pull people to this point of view and we remove the resistance. Now, I heard you say earlier, in the mornings, I'm still battling the mornings a little bit. I'm training, doing yoga, working out hard. Have you tried doing nothing?
That's a brilliant question, but I look at meditation as trying to do nothing, right? The breath, focusing on the breath only. But tell me.
Yeah, I can't meditate for shit, but I can sit in stillness. I can. So it's because if I try to meditate, my brain won't stop.
Yeah.
And the other obstacle that we're all facing right now is our nervous systems are just overstimulated, radically overstimulated. Like those little cars that you push on the floor with a motor, you wind it up and the motor's running, right? That's us. So even when we stop, like I did this last weekend, I was sitting down. I'm like, I need to slow down. And I sit down, I'm sitting next to my phone, watching myself, unable to sit more than 2 minutes without grabbing it again on a Saturday. And I'm just like, it's just like robotic because our nervous systems are so wound up from the constant input, from the scrolling, from everything. And your power, my power is in the stillness, right? Because the brain, the thoughts is a part of you. Who you are is the stillness underneath that. So when you're not talking and you're being still, that's who you really are. So when you stop, that's when you get in alignment. That's where your power is. That's where the intuition is. That's where awareness is. So the way and you've been approaching this, my guess, and I may be wrong, is you've been approaching that morning habit, that pattern by choosing to take actions that you believed would solve it.
Right. Yeah.
But the way to actually solve that overrunning pattern is to just literally sit and watch your body still run. You're like, your brain's going, parts going. Because now I can access stillness. I'm still a little energized from this conversation, but stillness is just a few breaths.
And then observing what comes up, observing the feelings, observing what's around, right?
And if you notice as we sit in this stillness, and I'll give you a tool in a second, notice, does it feel good? Right? Because that's what meditation is. It's getting into that space.
Yeah.
But most people can't sit still long enough to do that. What I've noticed now is we can get to that with actively being aware much quicker because we're operating at a higher frequency. So one simple way to quiet the mind is just scan your body real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And where in your body is a place of and do this with your eyes open. So because eyes closed makes you kind of escape. Keep them open so you do it in this reality. Okay. So just do a quick scan of your body. Where in your body, however big, however small, is a spot of stillness?
Spot of stillness. I thought you were going to ask me a spot of tension.
Where's stillness in your body?
I guess my legs right now in this moment.
Okay, so do you see that stillness there? Get a sense of that stillness?
Mm-hmm.
Now imagine jumping off a diving board and diving all of you into that stillness in your legs.
Yeah. With eyes open too. That's going to be a challenge, but I like that, Jason. Yeah, it's going to be a challenge with eyes open because everything is
so take that story you just gave me.
Yeah.
Push it aside.
Yeah.
You can also use listening. So if you focus your attention on my voice, you're hearing the words and you're hearing the space between the words. Can you focus on the silence, the stillness between my words? Can you feel it there? Even if I talk faster, can't you still feel the stillness between those spots?
I think it's because, though, I've trained myself that silence and stillness now, for me, are so much more valuable than anything else at this point in my life and career. So yes, the answer is yes, but I feel it took me 2 years to get there. You could probably get a coaching client 15 minutes. So
well, because I've been trained with these tools, right? But it's great for anybody. And it's not like we sit here all day, but we get balanced. Now we're in alignment because usually we're just moving and we don't stop. So tell me about that identity that you were either trying to create or let go of. You said something about shifting an identity earlier. Is it something you're trying to create or one you're trying to remove? Like what? Tell me more.
Well, it's both, right? So the whole real estate successful entrepreneur identity of 20 years, and my brain served me well for many, many years. And once things started to feel out of alignment, at first it was like, oh, cool, there's alignment, like number one. And then number two was like, oh shit, nothing I'm doing is in alignment with me. And therefore, oh shit, what do I have to do now to like fix it? And that was all last year. So that's the heaviness that I just talked about, is laying people off and shutting down things and shutting all of the things of who. So that's the question now, right? Is who am I when there's nothing on the calendar, right? And who am I if I'm not out there coaching and speaking at real estate events, right? Like who am I if I'm not doing that? So that's my journey this year. My journey this year is curiosity is my theme, right? Like what does that even look like for me? So, and I didn't have patience for a while. My next piece of that was, I need to know now and have to have my theme. I have to have my targets. I have to have all my shit for every single month, right? And it's like, what does it look like if I don't have that right now?
Well, when you ask that question, like, who am I without that? What type of answer comes up?
That's a great question too. I appreciate the stillness instead of being fearful of it. And I appreciate now having space in the calendar. Whereas before I felt I wasn't adding value, therefore I was worth nothing. Right? So with that said, I feel like I need to just be in that space. And I don't know if that's 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. I don't know. But that's why I knew, like, my heart was saying, do not set any targets right now for where you're at. Like, just be where you are and let things unfold.
So, and I was wondering if you asked that question a lot, who am I without that? And I was wondering if you're looking for an answer, like, the reason why I asked that is because if you ask that question, you're probably going to get blankness as an answer. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. The standard line, right? Divine being sent by God to expand and learn. I get that. But
yeah,
I like to have a purpose, right? Like and serving people has become my general purpose, but I don't have the targets. I don't have the specifics. I don't have the plan. And I know the plan is, you can't make.
So that point of view right there is saying that you can't serve them without a plan. So let's take that point of view and just throw it out the window. Right? Because the reason you get a blank answer when you say, who am I without all that? The reason why the answer comes up blank before your brain says, I'm a being, is because who you are is beyond words. There's no words to describe who you really are. You, this infinite being that you are, and you're a piece of the big one, and you're an individual version, and you're a big piece and a part of the whole as well. It's literally beyond words. So let's focus you in a direction where you are making the impact you want. You are impacting the world. And even though you don't know how, it's already happening. And if I want to have a plan and a purpose, I can have a plan and a purpose. If I don't want to, it doesn't matter, because those are all old constructs from your past. Those are beliefs. Like your energy, I was feeling kind of down and frustrated at the beginning of this call. Your energy positively lifted me up at the beginning of this call just by talking to me. You didn't have any plan. You didn't have any focus. I'm still recovering from some burnout from the last year. And while I am onboarding a new CEO, it's awesome. I'm still just wiped. And you just supercharged me at the beginning of this call.
Wow. Thank you, Jason. That's a big deal.
You're welcome. So let me also throw out is like, you can continue to do nothing if you want to. You can build another company if you want to. You can make more impact. And let's just make a decision that we're going to maintain this connection to the stillness. Because what that really is that's a connection to your true nature and who you really are. We can then step into a mind construct if we choose to operate this way. you could be operating in stillness connected to yourself. You could be mentoring new entrepreneurs and go into your realitaire brain, access those resources, use those, but still be grounded in the infinite power of you.
That's so beautiful. That's the only vision that I had, is exactly what you just said. Yeah. Thank you for that.
And all I'm doing is I'm picking up on the secondary stories that are contradicting what you want.
Yeah. I can choose to have a plan. I don't have to. I like that for right now. Thank you. Yeah.
Are you also noticing how easy it is to get rid of those stories?
Yes, I am. The evidence, I've been trained similar to, right, like, what is the story? I'm trying to identify stories. It's funny because you and I do this like for others. And then for me, waking up in the morning, that's part of my journaling, is what's one thing that I believe today that nothing that I believe is true, right? So what's one thing I believe today that's probably not true, but I think it is, right? And I have to go through the opposite story and the evidence of those stories. And by writing in the journal, it was serving me for a few years. But the actions and having it instill into me has been like, I think I need to find that in that stillness that I still probably don't have enough of.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'll get it. You'll get it. And the creation part of active creation of my model of alignment, a lot of that is really aligning with what's going to happen. Because your life from this moment onward is a dance with life. And whether you call it God, universe, creator, that thing, you're intertwined with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really about, and what I enjoy doing is I enjoy looking for coincidences. I enjoy looking for synchronicities. I love that, right? Because I feel like that's life talk. The second I hear the same thing 3 times, I'm like, my ears perk up. It's like life talking to me. And if you also pay attention, I also enjoy when I hear life talking to me through other people. Because there's times where someone will say something to you that's completely out of character, but it's something you needed to hear.
Yeah, they're channeling that. That's so cool. I love that. That's so cool. One of the biggest other challenges too, and this related, 2018, I went through a really, it was 2018 to 2020. I went through a really horrible divorce, my second divorce. So I learned the problem was me. And, I think that one thing that I think there's a lot of your people, right, in your community come together with is that all of these, I had so many stories that came up. No one has done business as a single dad before. No one has this schedule and can balance X amount of companies and this and that with kids. How could I possibly be intentional with them, be intentional with work, and be intentional with me and a possible new partner? Like, it's just impossible, right? And thus do the impossible, right? Like, and the brain tries to figure it all out based on who we were before. And to a point, like, right, I can say that, okay, so I did that for 3 or 4 years, and now it's just a matter of redoing that, but really coming from here instead of here to figure it out. Would you agree? Like, is that?
Yeah. That's because we're getting those 2 sources of information. The past is your brain, right? Is your mindset is everything from the past decades you've been alive, and your mind is running those patterns. So it's the way you get beyond that is you first of all stop seeing the mind as an enemy or the ego as an enemy. It's not a bad thing. It's a part of you, right? But the way you get through it is stillness. The stillness helps you see the truth and helps you hear the intuition.
How often do you, or what, here's the brain talking again. How long are you in stillness in your mornings for, if you use that in your routine?
Not me. Not very often.
Okay.
I'm a little wound up right now, but I stop and it typically happens when I'm coaching. I jump on coaching calls and I'm slowing other people down. So it slows me down.
And there's the channeling again. Beautiful.
But I also worked out for an hour this morning, and that was, even though I was listening to music, it's still quiet time for me.
Yeah. That's so good. Brilliant. Well, thank you for this, Jason. This is awesome. Yeah.
You're welcome. Are you good?
Always good, man. Working into the new transition, and looking forward to working more with you and your team this year. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thanks for watching the Mindset Alignment Coaching Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Drees. To get your own experience of coaching, go to freeintrosession.com, and I will see you on the next episode. Take care. Bye-bye.